All right. So let's read through Jonah, shall we? I love this minor prophet. You know why they're called minor, don't you? Minor because they wrote less. They certainly are no less significant. All right, here we are. Jonah. I like Jonah a lot. I can relate to Jonah. Well, I mean, we can all relate to Jonah, really. But the interesting thing about Jonah is this. He doesn't only not want to do what God has called him to do, but his reasoning for not doing it is a good reason, a very good reason. And, you know, I have some empathy for him. So let's read through here. I mean, if I can see. And see what we can find out about the mysteries of Jonah inside the belly of this whale. We'll start at verse 1 then. Now the word of the Lord came to Jonah, the son of Amittai, saying, Arise, go to Nineveh, that great city, and call out against it, for their evil has come up before me. But Jonah rose to flee to Tarshish from the presence of the Lord. He went down to Joppa and found a ship going to Tarshish. So he paid the fare and went on board to go with them to Tarshish, away from the presence of the Lord. It says twice, away from the presence of the Lord. Absolutely, first and foremost, when we don't do what God has called us to do, what direction are we going? Away from God. This is bad news. The killer thing is, it's not only bad news for us, it's bad news for the people who are waiting for us. In other words, Nineveh. And wherever we go, we bring a tornado with us, right? We bring storms. We bring the lack of the presence of God on our life. Now, when I say that, I mean the anointing. Going through this book, I'll be talking about all kinds of things, but trailing off onto all kind of rabbit holes. So I don't know how long this is going to take. We'll just go with it, though. I mean, we've got to start somewhere, don't we? We'll just go with it. There are two anointings. One is the anointing that is within us, that indwells within us, which comes the day of our salvation, and not a day before, not a moment before we receive Jesus Christ, does that indwelling of the Spirit of God inhabit our being. This is the scary thing. Both the call and the anointing of God, which can come on us at any time, saved or unsaved. What is salvation? Believing in Jesus Christ. You have to figure that out for yourself, though. Don't not follow the presence of God wherever he goes. Follow him. Leave the call, leave the presence. Wherever you go, not only you, but other people with you are going to suffer. Verse number 4. But the Lord hurled a great wind upon the sea, and there was a mighty tempest of the sea, so that the ship threatened to break up. Then the mariners were afraid, and each cried out to his God. I mean, they're crying out to anything. They're like, go get that wooden statue in the hull of the ship, man. We just need to pray to something, because this storm is kicking our butt. And they hurled the cargo that was in the ship into the sea to lighten it for them. But Jonah had gone down into the inner part of the ship and had laid down and was fast asleep. So the captain came and said to him, "What do you mean, you sleeper? Arise, call out to your God." You know, all hands on deck. Everybody call out to your gods. One of them is mad, right? Let's figure out which God of ours is mad. Perhaps the God, lower G, will give a thought to us that we might not perish. This is kind of parallel to Jesus being in the hull of the boat. Or is that what they called it? What do they call it? The inner part of the ship. So Jesus was doing exactly what God wanted him to do. He was following the will of God. And so what did he do? He tamed the sea. He was in the proper place, had the proper authority and the proper dominion. He took dominion over the seas and calmed them. Jonah is the reason the seas are going everywhere. Why? Because he's not doing any of that. And he's left his office of the prophet, and he's left his office of dominion and authority. The anointing is not on him. This is a very bad place to be. I love this prophet. Verse number 7. And they said to one another, come, let us cast lots, that we may know on whose account this evil has come upon us. Jonah's still hiding. He's still hiding. He knows exactly what's going on. So they cast lots, and the lot fell on Jonah. Oh man, you can't hide. You can't hide. It will come and get you. It will come and get you, man. Then they said to him, tell us on whose account this evil has come upon us. What is your occupation? And where do you come from? Who are you that our whole lives have been put in peril that you're here? And of what people are you? And he said to them, I am Hebrew and I fear the Lord. I'm sorry. I love this so much. I am Hebrew and I fear the Lord, the God of heaven, who made the sea and the dry land. Then the men were exceedingly afraid and said to him, what is this you have done? For the men knew that he was fleeing from the presence of the Lord because he had told them. Then they said to him, what shall we do to you, that the sea may quiet down for us? For the sea grew more and more tempestuous. Verse number 12, he said to them, pick me up and hurl me into the sea. Like, why didn't he just do that? Then the sea will quiet down for you, for I know it is because of me. I know it is because of me. He always knew it was because of him. We always know it's because of us. And what do? We'd rather sleep. Let's just sleep. I know people's lives are being put in danger. I know that where I am, God is coming after me. He's going to devour me. And if other people are around me, he's going to devour them too because I'm not in his will. I know it's me. He was lying. He was lying to himself until somebody called him out on it. Sometimes we just need people to call us out on our stupidity. Therefore verse number 14, therefore they called out to the Lord, O Lord, let us not perish for this man's life. Kill him and save us. And lay not on us innocent blood, for you, O Lord, have done as it pleased you. God always does as it pleases him. So they picked up Jonah and hurled him into the sea, and the sea ceased from its raging. Then the men feared the Lord exceedingly, and they offered a sacrifice to the Lord and made vows. How about that? One thing is true. Everywhere a man or woman goes, in the will of God, outside of the will of God, once they get into, whoever they touch, once they get into the will of God, those people that they've touched, they haven't touched them with their own human carnal hands. We don't have any power in and of ourselves except to wreak a lot of confusion and havoc. It is the Lord's goodness. That's where the power comes from. And whoever we touch, they're going to be touched by the power of God. Now, how they react to that is a matter of their heart and God. You know, it's so hard. It's so hard not to try to convince people of something. One thing we absolutely have to do is relay the information. We must give instruction and direction, but we cannot convince anyone. When it comes to the things of God, we can convince people on all kinds of things. We can convince people to taste things that taste nasty. We do it all the time. Oh my God, this tastes terrible. Try it. We do it all the time. Oh my God, this smells awful. Smell this. We can do it all the time, but we cannot convince salvation. Why? It's a matter of the heart. You cannot convince someone of that. You can give them all the information. They can have all the information and more information. And honestly, the more information in that particular instance, the harder it is. It must be a matter of the heart making the decision. It is not arrived at by a solution. It is arrived at by a revelation and an understanding that comes from the Spirit and the inside and the mind and the heart of us, the individual, and God. Verse number 17, and the Lord appointed a great fish to swallow up Jonah. That was kind of merciful. I mean, it was. I mean, he would have been eaten by sharks. It would have taken him forever to float wherever it was that God wanted to take him to, right? Wherever he ended up. You know, when you're out of the will of God, sometimes getting back into the will of God is a little bit more difficult and a little bit dicey, and sometimes you have to take rides inside of fishes' bellies. You know, suck it up, man. And Jonah was in the belly of the fish 3 days and 3 nights. Then Jonah, chapter 2, verse 1. Then Jonah prayed to the Lord his God from the belly of the fish, saying, I called out to the Lord out of my distress, and he answered me. Out of the belly of Sheol I cried, and he heard my voice. And you cast me into the deep, into the heart of the seas, and the flood surrounded me. All your waves and billows passed over me. That can be a really good thing sometimes. Then I said, I am driven away from your sight, yet I shall look again upon your holy temple. The waters closed in over me to take my life. The deep surrounded me. The things I didn't know, the unknown, the things I didn't understand surrounded me. Weeds were wrapped around my head at the roots of the mountains. I went down to the land whose bars closed upon me forever. Yet you brought up my life from the pit, O Lord my God. When my life was fainting away, I remembered the Lord, and my prayer came to you, into your holy mountain. You know, I think about Jesus when I think about this. Because you know, when he was alive, he read this. He even said, I have to go into the belly of the whale like Jonah. So here he was reading himself. He was reading Jonah, which was his word spoken in, I don't even know, 793 BC, thereabouts. Ancient. He spoke into Jonah, into this little scroll by this minor prophet, so that, about 1,000 years later, in 30 AD, he could read his words to himself. I can't. Those who pay regard to vain idols forsake their hope of steadfast love. But I, with a voice of thanksgiving, will sacrifice to you. What I have vowed, I will pay. Salvation belongs to the Lord. And the Lord spoke to the fish, and it vomited Jonah out. It vomited Jonah out on dry land. Man, I tell you what, when it comes to God, you don't always get the red carpet. And you've got to realize that. And you got to roll with it. You've got to roll with it. Fish guts and all, man. You're the one that went the wrong way, right? Oh, my. But we're His. We're His children. You know what I'm saying? We're not out here lost in the middle of nowhere getting puked up by fish on a land where we don't know what's going on and nobody's talking to the fish. You just got lucky. Luck has nothing to do with God. When God is in your life and you've given Him lordship of your life, things happen and it means something, no matter what it is. No, you don't always get the red carpet, but your Father is a king, and so are you. And you're a son or daughter of a king. I can't get into all. We'll come back to that another time. Thumbs up. I should have been more organized. Chapter 3. Then the word of the Lord came to Jonah the second time, saying, Arise, go to Nineveh, that great city, again. So God always comes back to where you left off. What time is it? Hang on. All right, I'm going to go a little bit farther here. Where we at? Well, we're almost done. But it's probably going to take another 20 minutes to get through all this. I might just wrap it up right here at 3 and then we'll come back to it. So until next time, I'll just split it up and we'll finish out Jonah. Thanks for being here.